heresy. But if you look from a different perspective, here when we talk about that, most of the disciples are the bodhisattvas and arhats, highly realized beings. So for those highly realized beings, it's not required to have a physical place for them to be able to kind of be there and to listen to Dharma. So again, from that perspective, maybe that can be one way of understanding it.
Un mūsdienās, ja jūs dosieties uz šo vietu, uz Meklijas virsotni, tad tā pati vieta ir salīdzinoši neliela. Tur var vienlaikus satelpt no vairāk kā 50 cilvēki, un iespējams, ka kad tūkstošu laikā šī vieta ir mainījusies, varbūt arī ne, to mēs nezinām, bet katrā ziņā, ja jūs šodien tur dodaties un mēģināt saprast, kā tas varēja tur notika, tur bija tūkstošiem mācekļu šo mācību laikā, tad to var grūti tā savietot prātā, bet viena no iespējām ir, ka tā kā vairums no šiem mācekļu bija augsti attīstītas būtnes, tad viņiem nebija bodhisattvas un tā tālāk, tad viņiem nebija nepieciešams atrasties fiziskā formā, un līdz ar to ir iespēja, ka šis ir viens no variantiem, kā varēja tur vienlaikus būt tik daudz mācekļu.
And then in terms of the special disciples or excellent disciples, the great community of monks and great community of bodhisattvas means the great community of monks, which is the Theravadan monks, which means Hiriya and solitary religious monks, as well as the bodhisattvas, Mahayana monks, three type of disciples, and then the community of bodhisattvas, which are not a monk, a lay practitioner, but bodhisattvas, and together with others lay practitioners as human beings and Gandavas and so forth.
Un lielā mūku kopiena un lielā bodhisattva kopiena ietvēra šos te mūkus, kur bija gan vientuļie realizētāji vai praktizētāji, klausītāji, un tie mūki, kas bija bodhisattvas, un lielā bodhisattva kopiena nozīmē to, ka bodhisattvas ir ne tikai mūki, bet arī laicīgie cilvēki, un tad tur bija gan mūki, gan laicīgie cilvēki.
And then the next one, at that time the Bhagavan was observed in the concentration of category of phenomena called profound perceptions. So from this on, then it's explaining about the background, starting with that, the uncommon background, which explained yesterday with to outline the common background or the environment and the uncommon background. So in terms of explaining uncommon background, then in terms of that there are three again sub outlines. With which concentration the Buddha blessed, and to whom the Buddha blessed, and how Buddha blessed.
Un te mēs redzam tos parastos konvencionālos aspektus un neparastos, neierastos aspektus. Un šie te neierastie vai īpašie aspekti attiecās tieši uz paša Budas vērstajām mācībām.
So the first one, in terms of with which concentration the Buddha blessed, is that at that time the Bhagavan was observed in the concentrations. So the subject, the Buddha, and observe into the concentration on categories, particular concentrations, a particular concentration called profound perception. So what it means is profound perceptions. The profound here means the emptiness. Perception means in here the concentrations which perceive that profound emptiness. So Buddha was observed or engaged in that particular concentrations on emptiness.
Tad mēs varam redzēt, ka tā rindiņa Bhagavāns bija grims meditatīvā absorpcijā par parādību daudzveidību, sauka par dziļumu parādīšanos. Tie atslēgas vārdi ir meditatīvā absorpcija un dziļumu parādīšanos, un dziļums šajā gadījumā tukšums.
So in generally, for the Buddhas, he can perform all different activities at the same time to be able to observe totally in the meditative equipoise, at the same time to be able to teach, at the same time to be able to engage in any kind of activities to benefit sentient beings. So there is no difference of observing, meditating, and engaging into activity to help others in whatever help it is needed, and teaching and so forth. In Buddha, everything's happened one time. But for the sentient beings, the audience, they observe sometime being meditative, sometime in teaching, sometime being helping others in some way. So from that perspective, it was at the time when the disciples saw him as in a meditative equipoise, or observing in that concentration.
No pašu Budu puses Budas var veikt vairākas darbības vienlaicīgi. Viņi var atrasties gan meditatīvā koncentrācijas, absorpcijas stāvoklī. Viņi vienlaikus var arī mācīt, un viņi var vienlaikus aktīvi palīdzēt visām tošiem būtnēm. Bet parastajiem cilvēkiem ir grūti to visu uztvert vienlaikus, tāpēc viņi spēj vienlaikus redzēt, kā Buda vai atrodas meditācijas stāvoklī, ka Buda māca, arī ka Buda palīdz citiem cilvēkiem, un no šāda skatījuma te ir uzsvērts tas, ka Buda atradās meditatīvās absorpcijas stāvoklī.
So for sentient beings, being total meditative equipoise and being post-meditative equipoise, which means being outside the world and trying to help and benefit that, these two are kind of alternative. They can't be in the same state. Whereas for the Buddhas, one of the qualities of Buddhas is that Buddha is able to do both those things at the same time. So Buddha is in meditative equipoise all the time, at the same time, all the time, to be engaged into the world and helping benefit others.
Parastām ilgošajām būtnēm ir divi stāvokļi, vai atrašanās meditatīvā stāvoklī, vai arī iesaistīšanās ārējā pasaulē, bet Budām tas ir integrēti un notiek vienlaicīgi var atrasties meditatīvā līdzsvera stāvoklī un darboties ārējā pasaulē.
And so, by engaging into that observing and engaging that meditative equipoise, the Buddha, through that Buddha blessed the Shariputra to engage into this discussion with the the great Mahasattva, Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara.
Atrodoties šajā meditatīvās iegrimšanas stāvoklī, Buda iedvesmoja vai svētīja Šariputru sarunāties ar Avalokiteshvaru.
So then the next one is the actual discussions between the Shariputra and Avalokiteshvara. Also at that time the Bodhisattva, Mahasattva, Arya Avalokiteshvara look upon the very practice of performing perfections of wisdom and behave those five aggregates also as empty of inherent nature. So while Buddha was observing that concentrations, at the same time the Bodhisattva, Mahasattva, Arya Avalokiteshvara was also engaged in a reflection and contemplation on this profound perfection of wisdom, and saw and contemplated that the five aggregates are also empty of inherent nature.
Un tālāk jau uzmanībā tiek pievērsta no Budas uz Avalokiteshvaras un Šariputras miedarbību, un tālāk mēs varam redzēt, ka tā laikā arī celais Avalokiteshvara bodhisattva dižām būtne apcer iedziļo gudrības pilnveidošanas praksu un izprat, ka arī 5 agregāti ir tūkši no pašnoteiktas eksistences. Tātad gan Buda iegrims meditatīvajā apcerē, gan arī Avalokiteshvara tātad starpāt veids to pašu.
So Bodhisattva and Mahasattva, here they are explaining that the meaning of that, in a sense that the Bodhisattvas, they develop a wish to achieve fully enlightened state for the purpose of oneself. So therefore, Bodhisattva. And not only that, they also wish to achieve fully enlightened state, not only for their purpose, but only their purpose, but also for the purpose of all sentient beings. So therefore, that's why it is called Mahasattva. So Bodhisattva, so that is the quality of the Bodhicitta. The difference between the compassion and Bodhicitta is that when you have the Bodhicitta, not only is driven by the compassion for the benefit of all sentient beings, but also a wish to achieve the fully enlightened state. And fully enlightened state for all sentient beings as well as for yourself.
Un tad mēs varam redzēt šo te epitetu Bodhisattva, Mahasattva, jeb dižā būtne. Tas attiecās uz to praktizēšanas galamērķi, ka tad šis mērķis ir sasniegt apgaismību gan sevis dēļ, gan arī visu jūtošo būtņu labā, un šī te visu jūtošo būtņu labuma motivācija ir tā, kas liek nosaukt viņu par dižo būtni, Mahasattva.
And it is called Arya because it's beyond the ordinary state and it is beyond the non-virtuous state. So that is why it's called Arya, Avalokiteshvara.
Viņu sauc par Arya Avalokiteshvara vai Cēlo Avalokiteshvara, kā šajā gadījumā, tāpēc, ka viņš atrodas aiz ciešanu stāvokli.
And Avalokiteshvara, or in Chandesic, it is called Avalokiteshvara or Chandesic because out of great compassions, day and night, all the time, looks for the all sentient beings to help them.
Un viņi sauc par Chandreziņu vai Avalokiteshvaru, tāpēc, ka viņš dienu un nakti meklē būtnes, kurām vajag palīdzēt.
And look upon Avalokiteshvara, look upon the very practice of all the 6 perfections in general, in this time, particularly the profound perfection of wisdom, the perfection of wisdom among the 6 perfections in this particular time.
Un runa par to, ka tika aplūkot 6 pilnveidošanās un no tām kā vissvarīgākā modrības pilnveidošana.
So then once Avalokiteshvara also engaged into that contemplations, and then through the that is the reason why so then Shariputra understood that Avalokiteshvara was in that state, in that state, and then he started, in order to understand better what he was reflecting on, contemplating on, in order to have a better understanding and to be able to share that what he was contemplating on the rest of the disciples. So that is when he started to ask the questions.
Un tā kā Šariputra redzēja, ka Avalokiteshvara ir ieguļījums tieši apcerē par dziļo modrības pilnveidošanu, tad viņš priekš pārējo mācekļu mūku labumā sāka uzdot jautājumus, lai uzzinātu sīkāk par to vairāk.
Then through the power of the Buddha, the Venerable Shariputra said this to the Bodhisattva, Mahasattva, Aryavaloka. How should any son of the lineage train who wish to practice the activities of profound perfection or wisdom? So that was the question that he asked.
Caur Buddhas spēku cienījamais Šariputra uzrunāja savu Avalokiteshvaru bodhisattva būtni un teica, ka būtu jāvingrinās labas izcelsmes dēlam, kurš vēlas uzsākt dziļo modrības pilnveidošanas praksi.
And when you say through the power of the Buddha, is in these conversations, the conversation that Shariputra started, or the question Shariputra started, is not by himself, in a sense by himself purely, but is through the power of the Buddhas. The Buddha blessing him, and through the power of that blessings, then he started to engage into that conversations.
Šī frāze caur Buddhas spēku, tas nozīmē, ka Šariputram tas nenāca tikai no viņa paša puses. Tas bija Buddha, kas viņu iedvesmoja un svētīja uzdot šo jautājumu.
And Shariputra name is given because his mother's name was Sharika. Putra means son, so it is a kind of son of Sharika, so that becomes Shariputra, so it's a name coming from his mother's. Or Sharididika, as in some others where it comes Sharididika, it is a name coming from I think their caste as well.
Un Šariputra, šis vārds faktiski nozīmē, ka viņš ir Šarikas vai Šarididikas dēls, un tas ir viņas mātes vārds, viņa mātes vārds, vai arī viņa dzimtas vārds.
And Shariputra and Mongoliana were two of the Buddha's main disciples. As you always see in the tankas or statues with Buddha and two standing near right and left. So these are the Shariputra and Mongoliana. Shariputra is known for his wisdom among all his disciples. He is one of the most sharpest with that incredible wisdom. Mongoliana is more known for his among his disciples for having some special psychic powers like that.
Un Shariputra un Mongoliana ir tie divi mācekļi, ko bieži vien var redzēt pie mūžas attēliem, kad abi šie mācekļi ir mūža mamās pusēs. Un Shariputra ir vairāk pazīstams ar šo savu plašo gudrību un zināšanām, savukārt Mongoliana ir vairāk pazīstams ar savām īpašajām spējām.
And then of course Avalokitesvaras, you know, Avalokitesvaras is sometimes he comes in the form of Buddha, the Buddha of compassion. Sometimes he comes in the form of bodhisattvas, especially when around Buddha Shakyamuni. So in these cases, Avalokitesvara is coming in the form of the bodhisattvas as a disciple of Buddha Shakyamuni. Yeah.
Un Avalokitesvara, viņš var parādīties vai nu kā līdzjūtības muda, šī līdzjūtības mudas formā, vai arī kā bodhisattva. Un šajā gadījumā viņš Avalokitesvara ir parādījies kā bodhisattva.
So then, having asked that questions, so then the answer from next, then there is from starting from here to the end, we can have 4 outlines. How to engage into a different path individually, and then how to condense the whole teachings into the mantras and explain in summarize in that way, and then explaining that way and summarizing the whole meanings, and then giving the instruction to how to practice, and then rejoicing. So these 4, did you get it?
Not all.
So first one is explaining how to engage into the practice through different 5 paths individually. So that is the first one.
Tad tālāk šai atbildēji, kas seko pēc jautājuma, kā būtu jāmēģinās, tai var izšķirt 4 galvenās daļas. Un pirmā šī atbildes daļa paskaidro, kas tieši ir jādara vai kādā veidā jāpraktizē.
And then all the practice summarized into that mantra and explaining through that.
Tad tālāk šī praksa tiek apkopota mantrā.
And then condensing, summarizing whole teachings, and then giving instructions in a brief way.
Un tālāk visas mācības tiek apkopotas tādā galvenajā esencē.
And rejoicing at the end of the whole conversation, whole teachings.
Un visbeidzot, visu sarunu vai mācību noslēgumā ir priecāšanās.
Then I think something came in my mind. So sutras has 3 different, we can say 3 different kind of categories of sutras. we can divide the sutra into 3 different categories. We call the sutra of sutra of blessing or by blessing, the sutra of just now of through permissions, and the sutra where Buddha spoke directly from his by himself.
Un ienāca prātā, ka varētu pieminēt, ka pārsvarā sutras var iedalīt 3 daļās. Vienas sutras ir tās, kurās tiek mācība tiek pasniegta caur iedvesmu vai svētības došanu. Otrā sutru daļa. What was the second?
The second was like permissions. The sutra of giving permission, kind of like Buddha giving permissions and saying it's okay to do this and that and that. So yeah.
Un otrā sutru kategorija ir tā, kur Buddha sniedz atļauju praktizēt tādā un tādā veidā, lai saka, ka tas ir pareizi tā darīt. Un tad trešais sutru veids ir, kur Buddha runā tiešā veidā māca no savas puses.
Some example would be like, for example, there is a sutra called the Sutra of Ushnisha, or the Sutra of White Umbrella deities. And so it is said Buddha, like just like here, observe in the concentrations, and then from the Buddha's Ushnishas, the teachings, the sounds, the teaching started to come. So it is like, this is a blessing. So it wasn't spoken by Buddha him directly, but through that blessing, and that they started to hear the teaching from his Ushnisha, for example.
Un tikai piemēram var minēt, piemēram, Ušnishas sutra vai Baltās saules dievības sutru, kur šī tā mācība tiek sadzirdēta no Buddhas Ušnishas, un tad Buddha nemāca kā tiešā veidā, bet mācekļi saņem iedvesmu un svētību.
And of course, most of the sutras are spoken by Buddha him directly, which will fall in the 3rd categories.
Un pārsvarā lielākais vairums sutru ir tās, kurās Buddha māca tiešā veidā, un tā ir tā 3. kategorija.
And the other sutra would be like, neither Buddha gave directly himself, or neither they heard from that, but Buddha will have given kind of, he totally understand, with total understanding they will be able to, the disciples, or some of them through his blessing, now they will be able to communicate correctly, directly, and so ask him to kind of do that. And through that, then that is how it happens.
Un tad šī aplikusija vai otrā kategorija ir tā, kurā Buddha nemāca nec tiešā veidā, nec arī ir kaut kāds tāds pastarpinātais veids, bet kurā mācekļiem ir izpratne un Buddha kā apstiprina šo mācekļu izpratni.
So it is in this Heart Sutra, all the 3 sutra are within one Heart Sutra.
All 3?
All 3.
Okay. Un tad šajā sirds sutrā parādās visi 3 minētie aspekti.
Like at the very beginning, where they had all this, the background where Ananda is recollecting, thus I hear this and that, and this place and this and that, that would fall in the category of the Sutra of Permissions.
Pēc ievadens mēs varam redzēt, ka tā ietilpst atļaujas došanas kategorijā.
In Tibetan we call Jesu Nawika. I think, I don't know whether I'm giving the exact translation, but it's like the Sutra of Permissions. And then all the conversations between the Shariputra and Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara is the sutra which is the sutra of being blessed. Buddha blessed Shariputra to ask the question, and Buddha blessed the Avalokiteshvara to answer, and then they have these conversations of that through the blessing of the Buddha. So that is the other category. At the end, when Buddha says, great, is like that, it is like that, he confirm or affirm what they have discussed. That is coming from Buddha directly from his own mouth. So that is the direct sutra coming from Buddha's own speech. So that part is that. So in that, within this, all different parts of different categories and all three sutras are within this one sutra. Yeah.
Tāpat arī caur, tas, ko mēs redzam, caur Buddhas spēku, Šariputra un Avalokiteshvara veica šo sarunu, tas norāda uz to, ka tā ir tā caur iedvesmu nākusī vai caur mūsu svētību nākusī sutra. Un sutras noslēgumā Buddha pasaka, jūs pareizi esat to sapratuši, un tieši tā ir jāpraktizē. Tā ir tā daļa, kur Buddha runā pats, būtu pats sniedz mācību.
Then the answer, he said that, which means Shariputra, and then he said that, and the Bodhisattva Mata Avalokiteshvara said this to the Venerable Sharitatita Putra. Shariputra, any son of the lineage or daughter of the lineage who wish to practice the activities of profound professional wisdom should look upon like this, correctly and repeatedly beholding those 5 eggs also as empty of inherent nature. So this is explaining more in a more short, and then he go more detailed with the from the next stage.
Un šajā vietā, kas gan šādi uzrunāts celais Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva divām līdzi uzrunāts ielūmušanu matadēvu un teikt šādi, Šariputra kāds dēvs vai meita, man būs savas vēlas veikt dziļu gudrības pamērošanas praksi. Tad tiem ir skaidri jāredz šādi, tiem nevainojami jāredz arī 5 agregāti kā tukši no paši noteiktas eksistences. Šajā vietā tā mācība tiek sniegta tādā kodolīgā formā, un tālāk jau tā tiek paskaidrota un izvērsta cīkāk.
And again, when we engage into the path, into the practice, there are 5 paths. Okay, the path of accumulation, path of preparation, path of seeing, path of meditation, path of normal learning. And so in these cases, when he starts that, he's explaining into how to engage into the practice of the first 2 paths, the path of accumulation and path of preparations.
Praksa faktiski ir sadalām tādos 5 etapos. Can we go through one by one? So,
yeah. The path of accumulations.
Pirmā ir uzkrāšana.
The path of preparations.
Sagatavošanās.
The path of seeing.
Redzēšana.
The path of meditations.
Meditation.
And the path of no more learning.
Un vairs nemācīšanās.
So that is kind of same whether you are in a Theravadan tradition or whether you are in Mahayana traditions. the stages, you go through 5 stages of the path.
Un šie 5 etapi ir spēkā neatkarīgi no tā, vai jūs Hinayāns vai Mahājāns praktizētājs.
Of course, in Theravada and Hinayana, it would be, the last one would not be known as no more learning. It would be the path of no more learning in their path.
Un Theravādas praksē, protams, šī vairs nemācīšanās attieksies uz viņu praktizēšanas.
But it's the arhat, the last, the arhat path, yeah.
Un tas attieksies uz šo arhata ceļu.
So here, as you see, when we say the son or daughter of the lineage, here the lineage refer to someone who has bodhicitta or at least compassion. So when you see here the lineage refer to the lineage of the Mahayana. And the lineage of Mahayana means either someone who have bodhicitta or at least the great compassions.
Un ko nozīmē šis teksts? Kāds dēls vai meita ar labu izcelsmi? Šī labā izcelsme attiecās uz to motivāciju, un ideālā gadījumā tā motivācija ir bodhicitta vai vismaz līdzjūtība.
So even though there are many disciples, Hinayana monks as well as others, ordinary disciples, so but the main disciple of this teaching, the main disciple of those teaching, this sutra, is those who have those lineages. So that is why it is referred particularly for them. Even though of course within the disciple there are so many disciples, but the main particular disciples where the teachings given are those of the lineage, daughter and sons who have cultivated bodhicitta or at least compassion. Yeah.
Kaut arī šo mācību laikā tur bija vielas, mūku kopienas, tie galvenie mācību adresāti bija tie, kuriem bija šī Mahājānas motivācija, bodhicitta vai līdzjūtība.
So because they have already actualized the bodhicitta and compassions, so here they don't go much on that path, but more on the wisdom path.
Un tā kā šiem praktizētājiem jau ir labi pamati līdzjūtībā un bodhicittā, tad par to prakses daļu netiek sniegti plašāk paskaidrojumi, bet uzmanība tiek vairāk vērsta uz gudrības daļu.
So then, here correct beholding those 5 aggregates also as empty of inherent nature. So when it says also, it is referring not only that, but also those 5 aggregates as empty of inherent nature.
Daļas skaidrījā viņš šādiem nevainojumiem jāredz arī 5 agregāti kā tukši no pašnoteiktas eksistences. Tas nozīmē, ka ne tikai 5 agregāti ir tas, kas ir jāuzlūko kā tukšs, bet faktiski gan šie 5 agregāti, gan arī vispārējais.
And again, different commentaries seems to have slightly different when it is also what it refers to the others which has already. In some commentaries, it explains not only the 6 senses and the the 12 senses and 18 elements come together. Not only they are empty of inherent nature, but also the 5 aggregate are also empty of inherent nature. Yeah? Did you get it?
elements. How many?
Yeah, 18.
18 elements.
Count chokye, yeah.
Okay.
The way we count will be slightly different. It will come later.
And senses you said 12?
12, yeah.
Okay. Tad tā daļa, kas attiecās uz arī, ietver pēc atšķirīgiem komentāriem dažādas lietas, vai tās būtu 6 maņas, vai 12 maņas, vai 18 elementus.
So here when you take the word sense and element, you shouldn't take in that normal way, otherwise I guess the usage of the word might not be exact. But anyway, so that is, then in some other commentaries it also says not only each of those 5 aggregates are empty of inherently nature, but also the whole 5 aggregate is also empty of inherent nature.
Tātad, kad mēs dzirdam šos te vārdus maņas un elementi, mums nevajadzētu uzreiz asociēt to ar to, ko mēs esam ieraduši asociēt. Tur nevēl citāds skaidrojums, bet vēl cits skaidrojums tam arī. Tas nozīmē, ka ne tikai 5 individuālie agregāti paši par sevi, bet tas 5 agregātu kopums ir jāuztver kā tukšs.
But I've also heard from His Holiness Dalai Lama, I've not seen any commentary so far, but His Holiness Dalai Lama explaining not only self is empty of inherently nature, but also the 5 aggregates are empty of inherent nature. So in here when you say also, not only the self, so it is emptiness of self has already made. Not only self is empty of inherent nature, but the basis of the self, which is the 5 aggregate, are also empty of inherent nature. And I think this makes much better connections.
Un ir vēl cits skaidrojums, ko es neesmu redzējis rakstiskot komentāros, bet ko es esmu dzirdējis no viņas svētības Dalai Lamas skaidrojumiem, kur viņa svētība saka, ka ne tikai es vai patība ir tukši, bet arī 5 agregāti ir tukši. Un, manuprāt, šis skaidrojums ir viens no tiem, kas ir diezgan labi uztvērams.
When we talk about selflessness, we talk about the selflessness of person and selflessness of phenomena. And so normally the selflessness of the person is explained first, and then selflessness of phenomena is explained next. In general, that is how you see in most of the teachings, or most of the texts. So in same way here, even though the selflessness of persons has not been explained explicitly in a word, but it has explained, and then so that is where the also refer to, yeah.
Un bieži vien mācībās vispirms tiek izskaidrota patības neesamība un tikai tālāk agregātu tukšums, tādējādi, vai fenomenu tukšums precīzāk. Un tādējādi šis te skaidrojums ir labs, jo tiek it kā izlaist vai nepieminēta patības neesamība, bet tālāk tiek aplūkot fenomenu tukšums.
Do you need a break?
Vai jums ir nepieciešams pārtraukums?
Yeah. No? Yeah, okay. Okay, yeah.
Dažas minūtes.